had loads of guests on the stage here. We've got many guests coming on the stage a little bit later on, talking about how to drive faster, how to race faster, how to develop your cars, and how to develop yourself, really, to drive faster. And the lady on the stage right now has jumped into the deep end, really, when it comes to racing. And we were just having a little chat a few moments ago about the form of motorsport you're in, which is frankly bonkers, if you ask me, but that's where she's gone. So can you please put your hands together and welcome Natalie McGloin. We're here to talk to you about racing, but also Dare to be Different. But just start off with telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Hi, my name's Natalie McGloin, and when I was 16 years old, I broke my neck in a car crash, which has left me paralysed from the chest down. In 2015, I became the first woman with a spinal cord injury to be granted a racing licence in the UK. So I now race a Cayman S in the Porsche Cup Championship against able-bodied drivers.
Which is phenomenal. But on top of that title then, you just come up with, I also had a look, and you're the first female quadriplegic lady, first female quadriplegic person to go racing in the entire world as well, which is pretty phenomenal. So you're setting the standard, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. I think there are other paraplegics and quadriplegics that race in the world, but currently I am only the female with my level of injury. So a paraplegic is someone who's broken their back, a quadriplegic is someone who's broken their neck, so their spinal injury affects their arms and hands as well as their lower body.
Yeah. Now, this topic, I said to you just before we started, is there anything that we can't talk about? And you said no, not really, which is a broadcast journalist's dream, really. So what was life like before you had the crash?
Well, 16 years old,
Yeah.
just got my GCSEs, looking to go to university and A-level choices. So, you know, I had a part-time job. I was hoping to go to university to study law at the time. I was a regular teenager, a bit of a tearaway, but nothing too serious. Life was pretty normal, to be honest.
And what did you look at going into? What was your 16-year-old? It's very hard to know what you're going to do for a career. But what did you have your eyes on? Your eyes set on?
So I thought that I might like to be a solicitor. I'd taken English and history at A-level in order to do that, but you know what it's like, you change slightly as you go through that process. But university with a career degree, what was the plan?
And then when you were 16, the worst of the worst, I suppose, happened, particularly, well, at any age. It would be something that I'm not sure how I would deal with myself, but you had to face that at a very, very difficult age, but also then you had to, your life completely changed, flipped upside down.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, oh, I don't think I would be able to do it, but I challenge that, because I think no one thinks they're going to be able to do it. And I think it's just having that little voice inside you that says, you're going to get through this. And I think everyone has that. It's just something needs to spark its kind of ignition. So I still did what I wanted to do. I was in hospital for a year in spinal rehab, learning how to do normal things again, getting dressed, feeding myself, pushing my wheelchair. And after 11 months I was discharged, and I went straight back to school and got my A-levels, and 2 years later I went to Nottingham University to study English.
So that time, that 12 months, 11 months, 12 months in hospital, where you're going through that pretty tough time of rehab there as well, did that give you plenty of time, I suppose, to reassess and think about what you could do, or was it a case of you looking at things that you couldn't do?
Yeah, I think I can remember the very first time I was told that I wouldn't be able to do something. I was introduced to a lady who had a similar level of injury to me, and they said she can't transfer independently and she drives from her wheelchair in a van, and we think that should be your standard. And I can remember feeling really annoyed, because I thought, you guys don't know what I'm capable of achieving. Why should that be my standard? And I was introduced to wheelchair rugby, which is a crazy sport, I suppose, where you smash into other wheelchair users in caged chairs and pass a ball about. But I was introduced to that about 3 months into being in the rehab unit, and these guys all had similar levels of injury to me, but they were independent, they were playing this really aggressive sport, and they were just living their lives, and I quite quickly decided that that would be my standard.
And I suppose when you're going through rehabilitation and people are saying to you, you can't do this, that's how dating, because one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, I think that then became something that as soon as someone said that I couldn't do something, I would prove them wrong even if it was to my own detriment.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there was a competitive element to you from that point anyway. So going into some form of sport, wheelchair rugby being one, then going into motorsport, that must, particularly for you, it must be something that it sets it sets yourself free, because you can now start doing something that maybe you wouldn't have ever done.
Yeah, I think had I not broken my neck, I would probably be in an office job, probably fairly content, but my life wouldn't be anywhere near as exciting as it is now. And I do, I'm not really comfortable with the term inspirational speaking, but I speak to people in spinal units who've been newly injured, and I try and tell them that if you can find a silver lining with your situation, then you've kind of almost half won the battle.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, it's very hard to sit here and say I guess so, because I have no way of knowing, but I suppose you're the only person that can really say that this is the case, and you have to find something that really gives you meaning, I suppose, as well,
yeah.
Gets your life back on track.
Definitely, and I think in the first instance it was rugby, it was wanting to go back to school, but I think having seen what these rugby players could do, I knew that I would be able to do that as well. So I think at first it was just about doing what I would have done had I not broken my neck. I wasn't willing to let that change my plans, but then obviously it did, because like I said, I wouldn't be racing cars unless I had broken my neck. But you know, you change and you grow when you're in your 20s and stuff, so that's just what happened.
Absolutely, and you're part of Dare to be Different. We will come on to Dare to be Different in just a few seconds, but I kind of want to build into this as well to find out, you started then going into motorsport. What was your background, what was your history, how did you then decide which championship to go into?
Well, I had absolutely no background, no history. When I was a kid, I didn't watch motor racing. My knowledge of racing drivers is appalling. I have no motorsport knowledge of like kind of pre-90s whatsoever, but my first introduction into motorsport, if you like, was I went car shopping when I was at university, and I went to Porsche, and I decided I might like a Boxster. So I had a look, checked I could get in and out of the car with my chair, etc., and decided I liked it, and that's what I would go.
Just thinking, you know, two-seat sports car as your choice.
Yeah, not the most practical of car, to be honest. But as I left the dealership, I noticed the 911. All I knew about it was that I didn't really like it. It probably suited me better, but I wasn't really interested. I went to my friend's house the following day, and I told him about my car shopping. I talked to him about the Boxster. I mentioned the 911. He stopped me in my tracks and said, "Don't be so ridiculous. The 911 is a driver's car. You won't be able to handle it." So I went in the following week and I put an order in for one just to prove him wrong, and that's how it started.
Wow. And I was saying to you just before we started this, that when you go into motorsport, we see lots of club championships, lots of national championships around here. Front-wheel drive, there are other forms here, rear-wheel drive as well. But to go straight into a form of motorsport that's rear-engine rear-wheel drive, it's a particularly hard beast to get to grips with.
Yeah, well, I race a Cayman, so mid-engines are slightly more forgiving than the 911s, but anything I do, I'm really passionate about it. I'm a strong believer that passion creates success, and I have always been really passionate about my road cars, and I have an emotional attachment to my Porsches. So for me, it was always going to be that, because that's what I was used to. I was used to the cabin space, it was familiar to me. So I was warned, it's a competitive championship, you might want to think about going into something a little easier. I was going to do it the hard way.
You just said, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So how's it been going? What was it like the first time you got on the grid, or the first time you got in the car in qualifying, or even practice?
Practice was difficult. My licence was approved on the Wednesday before my first ever race at Brands Hatch Indy, and I had a test day on the Friday. Obviously you can't do a test day without a licence, so I'd never done a test day before. And I'm guessing the magnitude of the event was a little bit much for me, and I went into Paddock Hill. My perception was too quickly, and I lifted mid-corner, and I came off into the gravel, and at first I thought I was going to hit the wall, but the car actually dug in, and I went full onto my side. I didn't tip over, but I don't know how. Like, my partner was in the pit lane, he said you could see the whole of the underside of the Cayman. some miracle I didn't, and I sat back down, but that was my introduction into motorsports.
So many people at that stage, I mean, Brands Hatch Indy Circuit as a way of getting into motorsport, Paddock Hill going up to Druids, that's a pretty fast flowing circuit to that point there. So you're going into that, then you end up on the side of your car in the first turn. A lot of people would probably at that stage then go, okay, I think I've probably bitten off too much.
Yeah, I kind of sat there as the recovery truck of shame was deployed to pull me out of the gravel, thinking this is now very, very real. And I qualified the next morning, second from last, thinking my worst fear is now going to be realised. I'm going to be last in my first ever race. People are going to think that I don't belong here and that I'm not good enough. So I spent the rest of the time in between the qualifying and my first race trying to talk myself out of doing it. And when I was sat in the holding pit, the holding area with all these other drivers, looking around, they were all kind of just socialising and just acting normally as if racing was the most normal thing in the world. And there was me in the car thinking, if I could get out and physically run away, I think I would have done. But then I went out onto the grid and I started in my pit box second, or my grid spot second from last, thinking I've fought to be here. It's taken me 1.5 years to get my licence in a car that I've had specially built for the championship. I'm going to make it count. And as soon as the lights went out, all that fear went away, and I was a driver just like everyone else, nothing different.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the crucial thing with things like motorsport, that it does have, when there are things that can be done to the car to make it possible for you to drive, then when you're in that moment, everybody is essentially to you in the same equipment, because you can't tell from the outside looking in.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about motorsport. It's one of the only sports, because of technology, where disabled people can compete with able-bodied people on a level playing field. And I love the fact that when I'm in the car, my wheelchair's in the garage, no one knows that I'm female, no one knows that I'm a wheelchair user. All that matters is my skill, and that's fantastic for me.
So when did you start racing? What year?
So May 2015.
So we've only been 2 years into it, 2 seasons into it. So what's looking for you for 2017 then, for this coming season?
So back into the Porsche Club Championship, having a few different bits and pieces done to the Cayman. I have done a bit of endurance racing as well in my friend's VW Cup Golf. He's also a paraplegic, so I can get on with his controls. They're identical to mine. And I love endurance racing, I love the team aspect of it, so I'm hoping that we might be able to do some brick car things this year in the golf, but Porsche Club Championship, I really want to excel in this year.
You were saying that you seem to be, you seem to get on better with the front wheel drives though.
Yeah.
On a track experience.
Yeah, I think I got into the front wheel drive having had no experience prior to the first endurance race that I did, and thought, oh, this is going to be different, this is going to be difficult, but I took to it quite well. I think controlling oversteer in a front wheel drive when you've only got one hand on the wheel is easier than rear wheel drive, because it's throttle application as opposed to lock to lock. But I love my Cayman, and I'm not straying from that.
Not letting it go. So just before, we are going to get on to Dare to be Different, but before that, can you just talk us through it's kind of maybe plain to see what the issues you would have that somebody like myself wouldn't have, but what are the biggest hurdles you have to come over when it comes to racing?
Well, my car's set up with hand controls, so I have a lever by the side of my steering wheel that you push down towards the seat to accelerate and push forward to brake. And normal hand controls are push-pull, so you pull backwards to accelerate, push forward to brake, but mine are called radial, and what it does is it allows me to mix, so I can effectively left foot brake. So I've got my left hand on the wheel, I leave the car in auto, so it's a PDK, so it works quite well for me, just letting the car change the gears. And I have a custom seat that's moulded to my rib cage that helps me feel the car. Because I'm paralysed from the chest down, I have no sensation below my chest, so I can't feel the underneath of the car like able-bodied racing drivers do. So the seat insert allows me to read the car like you would, basically.
That's absolutely fascinating. So how did that technology come about? So how did you find out about that technology that would give you that extra feel?
Well, when I first started racing, I was involved with a charity called Mission Motorsport, who are an injured soldiers charity. Now, I have no military background, but they took me on as I knew the founder of the charity, and it fitted really nicely. And they introduced me to a company called Indie Seats, who are a bespoke seat fitting. They do endurance stuff, so different size drivers can use the same seat. And for me, I just had to think around what would work, and working with Chris from Indie Seats, we made something that would make me feel the car, and it just kind of came about from a product that was already there, just with a bit of outside the box thinking, really.
If you gave me a sheet of paper and a pen and said, write down the things that I think you would struggle with, that wouldn't be one. That wouldn't be on the things that I would come up with. So it's fascinating that what people have done and what you've done to get around the issues, I suppose. Yeah. So let's have a look at Dare to Be Different. This is an organisation that you can go and check out here at the show as well. But it's a fantastic place, daretobedifferent.org, if you want to find out about it. But you're an ambassador.
Yeah.
Primarily, it's to encourage women into motorsport in every aspect. It's not just sitting in a car and driving. We're talking mechanics, medics, engineers, anything really. So what's your involvement?
Well, I was asked to become an ambassador for Dare to Be Different at the beginning of last year, and I was flattered. The organisation reigns really true with what I believe in. You know, things shouldn't be exclusive. Motorsport is a male-dominated industry, but it's not a male-only industry. So it's about just encouraging and supporting females to be involved in this fantastic industry. And I think the main way that we can do that is by awareness, because the reason for the lack of females in the sport is because they don't see females in the sport, and it's almost like you have to see it to believe it. So as soon as we can start promoting and championing the great women that are involved in driving, in engineering, in reporting, mechanics, all of that kind of stuff, then the more little girls are going to be in school, and when the teacher asks that question of what would you like to be when you're older, you're going to get 5-year-old girls saying, I want to be a race car driver, I want to be a race car engineer, I want to be a mechanic. And I think that's one of the challenges, but the other challenge is the other generation, so the teacher's generation, so that when kids say this, the teachers say, yes you can, and they support that, and it goes through the school, and then it comes into the industries, and the mechanics are starting to come through with the females and stuff.
The organisation was set up really by Susie Wolf, and what's really phenomenal about Dare to Be Different is it's got people like Susie Wolf, Claire Williams, it's got a lot of people, females in motorsport that we now see on television with the peak sports. You know, we're now seeing females in there in the very, very top positions. They're very eloquent, very articulate people, and it's really promising for females. But we're also seeing a lot of female motorsport presenters coming through, motorsport journalists coming through as well, and it's taken away that mysticism, I suppose. We're now getting more used to it, and that's how it breaks through, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in quite a few of their headline events this year, and we've had girls coming through from schools to look at the cars and try karting, try the Batek drill, look at presenting. And I think that when you get girls at that kind of age, they're not conditioned to kind of think that they can't do it. There's the stigma a little bit, but if they come to these days, they get so excited by it. If they love it, they want to do it more, and they talk to their dads about, instead of, oh, I'd want to go horse riding, they want to go karting for their birthdays. They want to go karting at the weekends, or they want to watch the Formula One on TV. And it's that kind of promotion that really, really helps to get the girls fired up about it and naturally into the industry.
Talk us through some of these events then, because they're primarily aimed at 8 to I think 11 or 12-year-olds, yes, aren't they? And then and the girls come to an event. What do they actually have to do on these days, or what do they take part in?
So there are a number of stations, if you like, at the event. So there are the karting parts where they actually get to go in a kart and experience it. I bring my car along. Some of the female karters bring their karts along. There are presenters there showing them how to present, so they have a go at all of the different things. So
they have to build a hovercraft as well.
Yeah, that's fun.
I want to do this. I want to have a go.
Well, when I'm there, I have a look at what they're doing and think, oh, I'd quite like to be part of this as well, rather than showing my car. But yeah, it's really good to get them hands-on involved. So building the hovercraft, trying out the Batek, doing mock interviews, and when they see my car, I get them to get in the car, and you know, I get them to ask me questions about it, and how, and you know what kids are like, they're so innocent, so they kind of say, well, hang on, you're in a wheelchair, your legs don't work, how do you drive? And so I show them the hand control, and they get really excited by it, and it's really nice to see, because you can see their brains kind of working. They go, we can do this too.
And in a bizarre way, because there are no parents around in this environment as well, kids will ask questions before their parents go, don't ask that. Because kids are inquisitive, and it's important that they ask the questions because then they get the answers. And that's something that's very impressive about Dare to be Different and yourself, is that you don't shy away from the questions.
No, well, the questions are there that need to be asked. It's similar to that kind of thing of, you know, if I'm out in my chair and a kid looks at me and the parents go, oh no, don't look at the woman in the wheelchair, and it's like, no, do have a look, come and ask the questions, because it doesn't need to be different, it needs to be, it's just part of society. And that's like the females in motorsport, it's not different, it's changing, and it needs to be normal, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it normal for young girls' aspirations to be involved in the motorsport industry.
I should also say that Dare to be Different isn't female exclusive, by the way, so gents, you can go on and you can be part of the organisation. I think it's really important that males, females, mums, dads, granddads, whatever, that they encourage anyone really into the sport, particularly if they've got a granddaughter or a daughter, or a friend who's got a daughter and they're interested in the sport. It's a case of opening up their eyes and saying, okay, chase your dream, don't think you can't do it.
Oh, it definitely is a case of follow your dreams, because I think motorsport is one of those things where it's all or nothing. You know, you're not just a little bit into motorsport, you're passionate about it. And I think that encouragement from teachers, from parents, from brothers and sisters about girls getting into this industry is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we had Louise Goodman on the stage yesterday. She has reported many years Formula One and the British Touring Car, and she was saying that for her, and it's Dare to be Different as well, but for her as another ambassador, one of your colleagues really, I suppose, in the organisation, that it's all well and good getting females into motorsport, but they have to be good. They have to be there on merit, not just because they're female. And we were saying, actually, myself and Louise yesterday, that in a bizarre turn of events, the way it is now, females have to be better than the men to be seen as equal in this particular environment that we're currently in. And that's quite a frustrating thing for yourself, but I suppose over the next 3, 4, 5 years, that will change.
Yeah, we're in a transitional period at the moment, and I think, you know, at the moment we have 20 boys to 1 girl coming into karting, and if you think of it as a pyramid, if you've got 20 boys, 1 girl, the likelihood of the person at the top of that pyramid is going to be male. So you want to get that equality at the bottom, and then as you go up, it will be whoever is the best will make it. And if it's male or female, it's going to be no consequence, because it's going to be equal. And I think that's what we need to really focus on and work towards.
Absolutely. We had Renault, F1 and Infinity on the stage a couple of days ago, and they have an academy. They have the Infinity Engineering Academy, sorry. And they have a global search for the very best engineers across the entire globe. They have 7 different regions. Now, back in 2015, they took on 3 people. 2016, so they took on 5 people, and they've taken on 7 people in this particular round. It's very, very hard. 1 from each zone of the globe that they take people on, and 2 of the 7 were female. And their opinion as a Formula One team with Infinity as well is they don't care what gender the person is. That actually doesn't have any bearing on them whatsoever. They want the best. And as opposed to females, if you can prove you are the best, then the top motorsport will take you.
Yeah, I think the top females, because they've had to work so much harder to get recognised and to get taken seriously, they're naturally going to be potentially more talented and more skilled than the men, because they're more driven. So they've had to fight for what at the moment in the stage where the kind of social aspect of motorsport is, they've had to fight for it. And I think that, like I said before, passion ignites success.
For you, what's the biggest biggest aspect of Dare to be Different offer? And there's a big support network as well, isn't there?
The support network's great, because we can talk to each other, we can swap, not secrets, but swap ideas of how we've gone to get sponsors, the approach that we need to get people interested in talking about us and help us move through. So the forums and the social media aspect of it, of just sharing our stories and getting just support from the other girls is great. And I think it's really important for the younger generation going through to have that as well, because our society is based on social media. So it's a great way to do it.
Absolutely, I think it's absolutely fascinating. We could probably talk for hours and hours and hours about this, but if you have any questions, I urge you to go over to the Dare to Be Different stand, which is, it's kind of down the way, just down there. You'll find it. Do you want to direct people to where?
Oh no, my directional sense is awful.
6251. Thank you very much. 6251. It's just, if you go on down this little aisle here, you'll eventually find it down there over to the left hand side. But there's a lot of people you go and talk to. There's a competition that you really need to enter into as well, an all expense tour of Maranello. So make sure you go and register for that one. Register your interest. It's a brilliant organisation.
It's fantastic.
For yourself, where can we keep an eye on what you're doing for the next 12 months, 14 months or beyond?
So I've got a website, it's nataliemcgaulinracing.com, brand new, nice and shiny, blog on there, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Keep up to date with, if you want to, where I'm going this season.
I think we will. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together for Natalie McGauling? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Inspirational, I know you don't like that word, but that's the word, isn't it? If you go to Dare to Be Different, go and speak to the ladies. We've got one of the Dare to Be Different ladies at the back just there. Go and speak to her and she will direct you, follow her to the stand.
Sorry, I'll be there for the next hour, so if anyone wants to come and ask any questions, please feel free.
Fantastic. One more time, please, Natalie McGauling. Thank you. We've got half an hour.